Magnus Carlsen, oh no, no. The move here for Fabi, your opponent is queen to g5, flying in with the queen, pressuring the king on the g8 square, and pinning that pawn on g6 to the king, meaning the knight on h5 cannot be taken. And from here, white's threat is simple. f6, queen to h6, queen g7, and dare I say it, Magnus here in this position as black is simply completely busted. All hope is nearly lost. But can Magnus Carlsen, the GOAT, come back from this position and beat literally Fabiano Caruana? If he can do that, he may indeed be the greatest player of all time, as this is just an unplayable position. It is a train wreck. It is a dumpster on fire of a position. But can Magnus come back and win? Let's find out. All right, in the game here, Fabi playing as white opens 1d4, black knight to f6 in this titled Tuesday Blitz game, which did happen this past week on chess.com. From here, we have c4, gaining space, e6, knight c3. White's idea here is simple. He is threatening e4, getting a massive pawn center on e4, d4, and c4. In response, black here, the move is bishop b4, flying out with that bishop. The idea now, if white does go e4, the knight on c3 is pinned to the king on the e1 square, and black would come in and take that free pawn. Therefore, instead, Fabi here, he's got to find something else to do. Now here, there are many ideas for white. There's the Rubinstein line for e3, the classical line for queen c2, plus many others. But in the game, Fabi here goes for maybe the most aggressive idea of them all. That is the move 4f3. Now with this move, white's idea is simple. Black is trying to stop white from going e4, and white says, you know what, e4 is coming whether you like it or not, Mags. In this game, the threat now is simply e4, with that pawn being supported by the pawn on f3 like this. Now what will Magnus here do to stop white's idea? In the game, he has two main lines, d5 and c5, and he does go for the simpler, more solid option, that is simply d5 in the spirit of the queen's gambit declined. In response, Fabi, he goes a3, putting the big question to the bishop. Do you want to trade on c3 or go back to, say, e7 or even a5? Now, a5 is not a good idea. You do lose that piece to the Noah's Ark trap, b4, bishop b6, and then c5. Therefore, instead, the only two viable options are taking on c3 or going back to the e7 square. In the game, he does trade on c3. We have bishop takes and then c takes like this. Now, in this position, we have a major imbalance on the board. Black here has given up the bishop pair. White has those two b's on c1 and f1, and the bishop pair is a massive edge in the chess game. Now, the one drawback for white, he does have the... in the game of chess, especially in an open position, but even here, those two b's are very valuable. Now, on the other hand, white does have those double pawns on c4 and c3, and those pawns could be a major weakness throughout this game. Let's see what happens. From here, black, short castles is the idea, and white does trade on d5, getting rid of one of those double c pawns. We have c takes, then e takes, e3, and finally for black here, the move is c5, lashing out, gaining space on the queen side. And of course, the idea, on the one hand, yes, that pawn is hanging. Yes, white can take the free pawn, but if you do that like this, then your pawns on the queen side on c3, c5, and a3 are just completely cooked. They are simply, I mean, what's a word for some bad pawns? They are terrible. All right, and instead of that, in this position right here, Fabi, he plays the move bishop d3, a solid idea, by far the best square for that piece, and the idea is black now would love to go bishop f5, but right now, that square is covered by the white piece on d3, therefore it is not a viable option. All right, black here, b6 is the response. Now, black here, he's got one big problem. His queenside pieces, the bishop, the knight, and the rook are simply out of play. He's got to find some way to get them all out and fast. And black's idea here is simply bishop b7 or a6, finding a better square for that bishop. Here, Fabi, he plays the move knight to e2, which is really the only good square for that piece. For example, instead, if you want to say, I don't know, h3, black here would swoop in, take the knight, ruin white's pawn structure, and white would be in for a very bad day indeed. Instead, knight e2 played in the game with the intention of castling on the king side as soon as possible. Black, in response, bishop a6 is the idea, flying out with the bishop and pressuring the white bishop on d3 like this. From here, white castles, short castles, and black does go rook to e8, sliding over with the rook and pressuring the weak e3 pawn. So far, both sides finding pretty good squares for all of their pieces, and the middle game here is about to begin. From here, we have knight g3 flying out with that knight. Bishop takes, queen takes, and now knight to c6. Now, in this position, the opening is basically over, and both sides have to find some plan. So let's slow down and talk strategy a little bit. What are Black's ideas and what are White's ideas? Well, the main feature here, White no longer has those two Bs. One pair was traded off. So the main feature now is this pawn structure. It's actually a little bit weird. We have some tension on d4 and c5, and Black has the option at some point of going c4 if he wants to. Now, if Black goes c4, it's going to be a very double-edged fight with White attacking in the center and Black on the queen side. But until that happens, there is all this tension, and although White would love to go, for example, e4, e5, it is going to be hard for him to find a way to actually force through the advance in the game, as there is just so much tension. Now, in this position, Fabi here, he busts out an absolutely insane looking idea. I mean, this move right here, insert your favorite, like, Michael Scott disgusted face. He plays the move rook to a2, a move that is shocking and absurd and maybe actually pretty strong indeed. The idea is the rook lifts up on the second rank, and Fabi here, he wants to go rook to e2 or f2, sliding over with the rook, finding a better square for it, and from there setting up the idea of e4, e5, maybe f4, f5, and so on. So Fabi here declaring his aggressive intentions in this game. He wants to attack in the center and on the king side, literally at all costs. Now, of course, it wasn't required. You could go, for example, a normal idea of, say, I don't know, bishop b2 and then rook a to e1 and so on, but Fabi here playing for style points in this game. I guess at that level, when you're literally Fabiano Caruana, at that point, you kind of get bored playing normal chess with bishop b2 and rook a to e1, and at some point, you just gotta go for these rook a2 ideas like this, trying to mix things up, spice things up a little bit, keep yourself entertained during the game. All right, Black, in response, queen d7 is the idea, getting the queen off the back rank and connecting those rooks on the e8 and the a8 squares. Now here, Fabi, he continues rook to e2, again, the rook lift on the second rank, finding a better square for that rook, but again, it's kind of strange to me. I thought bishop b2, rook a to e1 was certainly the way to go, but Fabi has other ideas in mind. All right, Black here. Rook a to c8, bringing out his last remaining piece as well, that being the rook on the a8 square, now on the c8 square. All right, Fabi, bishop b2, developing and setting up the idea of e4 when the bishop might be a little bit better placed on b2 over c1. And Magnus here, he decides now is the time to release the tension and then play the most standard of Magnus Carlsen ideas that you will ever see. He trades on d4, c takes, White takes back. And now what does Magnus do right here? He brings a piece back to the back rank, knight d8, and it seems like this is the only thing he knows how to do these days. Like every single game, no matter what, rain or shine, whatever happens, Magnus is bringing a piece back to the first rank, the back rank, undeveloping his pieces, trying to find a better square for his pieces. But in this position, it doesn't really make all that much sense. I guess the idea is knight to e6, but I don't know. Magnus here getting very, very fancy in this game. And Fabi, he's having none of it. And with the knight no longer on c6, it's not pressuring d4, and therefore Fabi decides now is the most opportune time to strike in the center, and he does that with the very strong, very precise idea of e4, threatening e5. This is the entire idea behind this whole opening with the move 4f3. Fabi finally getting in the key e4 break, starting the attack in the center and on the king side, and making full use of the very awkward placement of that knight on the d8 square. Magnus here, knight to e6 is the idea, getting it off the back rank, and now we have queen d2 sliding back. Now, very importantly, e5 here does not work as Black's knight on e6 is threatening knight f4. e5, knight f4 would lose the exchange at the very least as the knight attacks the queen and the rook. Therefore, Fabi, he sees the impending threat and simply goes back with the queen, queen d2, guarding f4, and the game does go on. Now here, Magnus, things are already a little bit critical. White is threatening e5. That is a very serious threat. And if you capture on e4, White takes back with the pawn and suddenly has two very strong pawns on the e4 and d4 squares. Now, instead of that, in this position, Magnus, he's got to find the right defensive idea. Now, my good friend Stockfish loves the idea of rook to f8 and tending e5 and then knight to e8, the other knight heading back to the back rank. And Black from here is more or less defending. Now, Now, instead, in the game, the move here from black is queen to a4, flying down with the queen, pressuring d4 and so on, pressuring a3, but the queen is now at risk of being locked out of the game. And Fabi, he simply goes for it, guns a-blazing on the king side. There are no breaks on this Fabi train, and it begins the attack with the key move e5, gaining space, driving back that knight from f6. The knight, it does go back, knight d7 chosen, and now we have f4, threatening f5. Here we go. Black, rook c6, the rook lift on the 6th rank here. The idea being at some point the rook may be defending along this rank like this, but Fabi, again, he is not slowing down. f5 is the idea, pushing back that knight, knight e to f8, and now knight to h5, jumping in with the other knight, pressuring g7, and the attack continues. And from here, Fabi, his idea is something like queen to g5, rook to f3, rook to g3, maybe rook to h3, and so on. Basically bringing every single piece over to the king side, staring down at the black king. And this position, I gotta say, is already incredibly dire for the GOAT. I mean, the eval bar here is already plus 3.81 pawns. Basically, black here is completely lost if white plays precisely. Now, in this position, what do you do? Obviously, queen g5 is being threatened. It is coming. Therefore, the GOAT plays the move g6, pressuring that knight. Now, unfortunately, this move does not slow down Fabi one bit. Instead, here he lashes out with the attacking idea, queen to g5, the key move we saw in the intro to this video. The queen pins the pawn on g6 to the king on the g8 square. The knight cannot be taken due to the pin. And from here, I mean, white's idea is simple. f6, queen h6, queen g7, checkmate. And what can black do to stop the impending checkmate? I mean, things are not looking good. But again, if Magnus can come back from this position, he may be the greatest player of all time. Let's see what happens. Now, here, if Magnus were to waste a move, let's say he went, for example, I don't know, a6, not a very impactful idea. In that case, white does not have to go f6. If he does that, the move knight e6 basically ruins his whole party. Now, instead of that, the winning idea for white is e6. The point being, if you take on e6, white takes on g6, and the entire king side comes crashing down in a heartbeat. Now, instead, Magnus here, he does not waste a move. He does not go for any a6 nonsense, or at least not in this position. Instead, he plays the unbelievable idea of f6. I mean, just look at this move. The pawns all attacking each other. There is so much tension here. It is unbearable. And the black king side is about to be blown open. Why would Magnus willingly blow open his own king side when he is the one being attacked and he has no chance of attacking that white king on g1? Well, let's find out. Obviously, the knight on h5 is being attacked. If the queen goes too far away to say, I don't know, h4 or h6 or f4, black takes the knight. That is the idea, winning that on h5, and from there, black is going to have some chances. Now, instead, Fabi, in the game, he slides back, queen g3, maintaining the pin on the pawn to the king on the g8 square, as I hold my breath for 20 minutes straight. Now, from here, the move for black is rook c2, flying down with the rook flying in, pressuring e2, trying to find some sort of counterplay. Not a bad idea at all. As black knows, if he sits around and waits forever, white is going to have too much of an attack. It is simply not safe. Therefore, some counterplay is required to save this game. From here, Fabi, he trades on c2. Rook takes c2 is the idea. Queen takes c2. And now here in this position, Fabi has to find the right continuation. Do you take on f6? Do you take on g6? What is it going to be? What is your follow-up? Now, it turns out knight takes is the best idea for white by a landslide, and the reason why is the knight cannot be taken on h5 once you jump to f6. Now, instead, e takes f6 chosen in the game, and the problem with that move is the knight is still almost on pre on h5. Yes, the pawn is still pinned for now, but that may be a tactical conundrum later in this game. All right, from here, Magnus, the move is king to f7, a very strong move, getting the king off the g file, and therefore black indeed is pressuring that weak knight on the h5 square. Here, Fabi, in response, bishop c1 is the move, defending the bishop, but now, of course, the knight can be taken. Or can it? Of course, if you take that knight, it is checkmate in one move. Queen g7, checkmate wins the game. Therefore, black did not play that in the game. You don't become the GOAT by literally falling into mate in one in your games like that. Now, excuse me. Instead, Magnus here. The move is queen to e4, simply centralizing his king. Not a bad idea. Now, Fabi, how does he want to continue the attack? It is not easy. I mean, yes, the eval bar gives literally here like white is completely winning, but I digress. The computer here says queen to g5, threatening queen to h6 and g7, wins the game on the spot. It's completely winning. Now, instead, here, Fabi, he plays the move f takes g6, and this is just a slightly dubious idea. It is not winning, and from here we have h takes, and then knight to f4. From here, black takes on d4, queen takes d4, and suddenly, after a couple of weak moves, Fabi here is finding himself in a position here versus Magnus, versus literally Magnus Carlsen, where his entire attack against the Black King has vaporized. He has nothing left, and black is simply equal. All right, king to h1. The king slides over out of the way of the check. We have knight takes f6, winning that pawn, knight to h3, king g8, knight g5, and then knight to e4, jumping in, forking the knight and the queen, forcing off some trades at the very, very least. Now, in this position, simply trading pieces is the way to go. Trading on e4 and so on, that's all you got to do as white. Now, instead, finally plays the move queen to h4, trying to keep things as complicated as possible, eyeing h7, eyeing the queen on d4 via the x-ray attack and pinning that knight. But this move, shockingly, is completely losing. Go ahead and pause the video right now and try to find the winning idea for black, and it's not even that complicated. The winning idea for black right here, if Magnus finds this, he wins on the spot effectively. The idea is simply knight f2 check. And look at this, the queen on h4 is lost. If you take the knight like this, bada boom, bada bang, queen takes f2, rook takes, rook to e1, rook f1, rook takes is checkmate like this, and the game is over on the spot. Now, if you don't do that, you lose the queen. Or, if you trade with the rook, you still lose on the spot. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, no matter what you do, after knight f2, black wins the game on the spot. Now, Magnus here, being in time pressure, being apparently a mortal, he did not find it. Instead, queen to h8 is the idea, sliding back and defending the kingside. In response, we have queen to f4, then knight takes g5, queen takes, and queen to g7, defending g6 with that queen. Then we have queen takes d5 check, wins the pawn, knight e6, rook e1, attacks the pin piece, queen f7, bishop b2, knight g7, rook takes, knight takes, and then queen to d3, sliding back with that queen and guarding the f1 square, which was necessary as black there was threatening mate in one move sooner or later. From there, we have queen f2, flying down with that queen, threatening mate in 1-2 moves like that. In response, Fabi here does go h6, guarding against the back rank mating threat. Now, instead, he could simply win this pawn with check. That would have been stronger, but of course Fabi here, being a mortal, only has 11 seconds left to make literally every move. He does make a little bit of a mistake. h3 played in the game, and now we have here for black, simply queen takes b2, winning the bishop, and from here, it is simply lights out. Fabi is down a piece. Magnus Carlsen has done it. He came back from, the impossible position after move 24, queen g5, somehow finding a way to come back from that, reaching this position right here, where he's up a piece in the endgame, up the extra knight. Can he convert, though? With literally 8 seconds left on the clock, we are about to find out. Queen d5 hits the king. King to f8. Queen f3 sliding back. Queen f6 blocking the attack. Now queen b7. Queen f1 check. King to h2. Queen f4 check. g3 and queen to c7 offering the trade. We have king to h1. Queen takes. And in this position, black is up the queen and the knight. But does Fabi quit? Oh no, he does not. He knows black is in time pressure, and he still has a chance. King g1, queen e4, king f2, queen d3, king e1, knight d6, king f2, knight e4, king g2, queen e2, and the king here on g2 is simply cooked. King g1, queen f2, king h1, And the knight mate, knight takes g3. The knight delivers the checkmate with the queen guarding every other square. What an aesthetically pleasing finish to this insane game. Again, where Magnus, despite being in the impossible position after queen g5, being down 3.81 pawns according to the engine, if the eval bar catches up. I mean, how on earth does Magnus do this versus literally Fabiano Caruana? I do not get it. Comment down below if you think you know how Magnus can do this again and again and again for a decade on end. I don't know how he does it. There's simply no one else even remotely in Carlsen's league right now. It is truly astonishing. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please smash the like button, comment down below. It does help these videos go viral, so if you can do that, I would massively appreciate that. And by the way, 4 times during the week to book a call with me and others to learn exactly how to level up your chess. Now, beyond that, you can also join my free online chess community, Dr. Mike's Chess Academy, where I have literally everything you need there to improve online chess very, very fast. So either book a call or join the free online community, whatever you want to do. I'll see you inside. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. And I'll see you in the next video.